Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Alison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly forecast for the week of October 21st to 27th. This episode is called The Cauldron's Gate Welcomes Us to Scorpio Season. We have officially arrived in the spookiness, the season of the witch. I went and bought a witch hat today because my daughter and I have decided to be witches after many different ideas and iterations, but I'm going to be a fungi witch, a mushroom witch with lots of mushroom accessories. And I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be fun for a Halloween costume to go back to the classics now that I identify with being a witch more than I ever have in real life. So, I hope you're feeling welcomed to this season of the witch, of the scorpion, of the phoenix, of the thunderstorms. Here in Santa Fe, it has been thundering and lightning for 3 days straight, and it's just been the most outrageous kind of weather for this season. Normally we get all of our rain in July and August during the monsoon season, but having this much rain in October is kind of unheard of, and it's been coming with these almost strobe light-esque torrential downpours and lightning storms where it's just this kind of really odd type of lightning and thunder that fits the mood of the season, with that Aries full moon last week that was conjunct Chiron and kind of square Pluto and Mars. A lot of intensity was in the astrology of the last week and currently, and the weather was fittingly has been really echoing that. There's thunder outside the window right now as I record this late on Sunday night, procrastinating this week. It's definitely been a torrential week for me as well. So here I am at the 11th hour recording this. So I apologize if it's a little disjointed. I've just been feeling a little bit caught up in the Plutonian nature of things, I will say, the Plutonian Martian nature of things lately. And I recorded a video last week on TikTok and Instagram about a breathwork practice for kind of a cortisol hangover after that Aries full moon last Thursday, and got so many responses to it of resonance of people out in the world. Really feeling grateful for having a little bit of breath practice or something to do, because there was just a lot of kind of pent up Martian energy and tempers and anger and just a lot of processing right now. And for me, my Pluto, which is, the lord of the underworld, Pluto in my natal chart is currently conjunct the sun and square Pluto in the sky, transiting Pluto, as well as square Mars. And so it's in my personal life, there's been a very Plutonian theme about just so much coming up from beneath the surface and down in the depths in my dream life and in my relationships, and just kind of these feeling like zombies kind of reaching their hand up through the dirt to feel the light of day, kind of the light of the night, the light of the moonlight, and just bursting through that crust of the earth and saying, oh, here I am. This is something that you haven't consciously acknowledged for a while. So anyway, it's been a week, and I feel like there's some zombie-esque breakthroughs happening that are good in the scheme of things, just like some personal realizations and revelations and things that are no longer buried. So if that's matching your vibe, it makes sense because, yeah, Pluto is in the 29th degree of Capricorn for the next month, and about to enter Aquarius for the next 20 years. And if you're born in the early 80s like me, then you will have Pluto in an almost square to that transiting Pluto. And it can feel a lot for us kind of midlifers in our late 30s, early 40s at this moment. So just know that. Anyway, this week we're getting into Scorpio season in earnest. It kind of feels like we've already been here, but this is it's different than Libra vibes. Scorpio it's darkness. It is that flashing lightning strobe within the darkness to illuminate things quickly and then just as quickly disappear. It's, the modern ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, and the traditional ancient ruler is Mars. And so Mars and Pluto being so active with this polarity across the zodiac wheel right now, and this will last through the next several months because Mars is going to be retrograding back through the same degrees. And so we're having kind of an extended period of Mars opposite Pluto. So don't fear, but just know that these energies are contained within Scorpio's archetype as well, as far as, intensity and ability to meet challenges head on, an ability to be powerful and brave, and say screw it to any kind of self-deprecating qualities, and just really own our weirdness and own our power and own our underworldliness. And that's the Martian side, is the, kind of intensity. And then the Plutonic side is, the way I see Pluto is really as this beautiful archetype of the master of the underworld, where the underworld is this place that is filled with all of our roots, and it's filled with beautiful mycelium connecting all of our roots together, and transformational processes happening within the soil all the time. But they're processes that we cannot see. They don't have the light of day shined upon them. And so Scorpio season and this Plutonian kind of highlighted season are really just bringing us into those steps, and recognizing that although it's tangled and roots are not like a clean straight lines or circles, they're a messy looking shape, but just thinking about how much beauty and how much riches are contained within those shapes. Those are the shapes of ancestry. Those are the shapes of where we come from, and those are the shapes of where we're ultimately going. So I welcome you and invite you to meditate a little bit on like just what it looks like beneath the soil. Although you'll never know except for a cross section or with a flashlight, just try to imagine what it would feel like to be in the beauty of the ongoing changes that are happening beneath the surface of the crust of the earth, and thus also beneath the surface of your life. There's so much beauty happening there that we can't always see. So that's my little rant on where I'm at right now, is trying to really appreciate the beauty of Pluto and the underworld and Scorpio. My daughter, who is 5, is a Scorpio, and she's known for a while now that Scorpio has 3 totems, which is the scorpion, of course, and also the eagle or the serpent, and the phoenix. And I've probably mentioned this in past episodes, but I think it's really interesting that Scorpio has 3 totems. It's the only one of the zodiac 12 that has more than one totem to represent it, and it's because it is about transformation and transmutation, and Yeah, scorpions living in the dirt, in the soil, in the corners, in the darkness, glow in the dark scorpions, right? They're like pretty cool. But then this ability to kind of use the same characteristics of laser focused attention and kind of like a really deep awareness of the depths of the power and the beauty of the depths. And as Scorpio evolves and that Scorpionic or archetype evolves, it becomes the eagle or the serpent, a fast-moving bird of prey or serpent, snake of prey, and that's kind of able to see things from a higher level than the scorpion is, but with that same kind of energy. And then the phoenix, of course, is this mythical bird that goes up in flames and is completely reborn, but also has that ability to see a vast perspective from above of all of the layers of the visible and the invisible. And so every time my daughter meets someone and they ask when her birthday is, she kind of doesn't really answer them to say that it's the date that it is, even though she knows it. She just says, oh, I'm a scorpion and an eagle and a phoenix. And she's the coolest 5-year-old on the playground. Nobody really understands what she's talking about, but they're like, all right, cool. But I love her. I love my little Scorpio, and I love so many Scorpios. I say this every Scorpio season, but my heart goes out to, I think it's this Virgo-Scorpio connection that I've read about a little bit, that's this just kind of witchy connection, this like earth goddess kind of like worshipping the harvest and then the depths and then the kind of like the darkness and the things that are not recognizably worshipped in our culture as much as we want them to, as much as they should be, I guess. So anyway, Scorpio love to all of you Scorpios out there. So many in my life, and I love you all. So we are currently in the last degree of Libra, and that means that the sun is square Pluto, who is in the last degree of Capricorn. And then the sun will be moving into Scorpio on Tuesday, October 22nd. So we've got, kind of a jam-packed beginning to this week with that square of the sun and Pluto, and then moving right into Scorpio season, who's ruled in modern times by Pluto. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Pluto on this podcast, but we will also be talking about the human design and I Ching gates that we're transiting through. And from Monday to Wednesday, it's been from last Thursday up until this Wednesday, the sun's been transiting through gate 50, which is the gate of values. And so that's the gate that covers the Libra and Scorpio cusp. And then Thursday through Sunday of this week, the sun will be transiting through gate 28, the first full gate of Scorpio season, which is the gate of the game player. And the gate 50 that we're transiting through currently is also known as the Cauldron in the I Ching. And so thus the Cauldron's gate welcomes us to Scorpio season is the title of this episode. And I really love the metaphor and the visuals of the cauldron in this Chinese ancient interpretation of this energy where, we think of, I just went to Party City and there were lots of plastic cauldrons, and you think of the witches' brew and witches' cauldrons. But this goes back beyond the medieval European identification with what a cauldron is and looks like. And so it's interesting that it comes up at this time where we have witch cauldrons all over the place and are kind of seeing them in the Western folklore and mythology, but it's also coming right at this time from the East Asian mythology as well. So we'll get into that a little bit. And the themes of the week are let the cauldron be the melting pot that helps all the pieces self-organize into a harmonious brew. that feels really juicy to me. So stay tuned for that. Also, social equilibrium requires fulfilling the need of both the individual and the group as a whole is another theme. And don't love the player, love the game is another theme for the gate of the game player. So our place in the Wheel of the Year, here we have traveled along to this cusp of Libra and Scorpio, and we are in the medicine wheel direction west, still the whooshing cycle element of metal, the pagan season of Mabon for one more week and entering Samhain next week's Halloween. And we're in a waning phase after that Aries full moon last week, so waning phase of the moon. And then, the Cauldron, gate 50, the gate of values, followed by gate 28, known as Test of Fate, and that's the gate of the game player this week. So lots to chew on there. As usual, I've put together my 6 human design gates of the season on my Instagram posts, and I will also share that on the Substack at astrosomatics.substack.com. And I've really enjoyed doing this as kind of like a premonition of how the gates travel throughout the season and see if there's any similarities or not. And so that it will be on the Substack. You can read the human design, the I Ching, and the gene keys interpretations of these gates and these 64 energies that we're transiting through. And I won't read all of those right now because it'll just maybe feel like a lot of words. But if you feel like going deep into Scorpio season and looking ahead, you'll be able to see what gates are coming up there. I've also started to include the astrological degrees in that. So I was only including the dates of the transits before, but now, based on popular request from some astrology community members, I'm including the degrees of the zodiac. So if you know your astrology, you can kind of easily look at that and see if you have that gate in your chart as well. So as I read through them, the 6 gates of Scorpio season, I definitely get a distinct sense of power as the main theme that's coming through for the season. And it's not in the sense of personal power per se, but in the sense of kind of holistic power and power that comes from within and from below, power that arises from kind of working from our gut instincts and deepening our relationships with ourselves and others. So that's kind of the over-under on that, and we can stay tuned for how it all unfolds. We have, the gate of self-expression, the gate of insight, the gate of power skills in there, the gate of alertness, and the gate of values in the game player. So a little overview there. And I won't go too much deeper into the nuances of Scorpio in this episode, as I will continue to reference Scorpio throughout the course of this upcoming month. And I'll also be sending out an article to subscribers of Cycles of Time on Substack. That's my monthly deep dive into the zodiac season for the astrology collective Astrum Opus. Every month since the beginning of the year, I've been writing a kind of monthly article for Astrum Opus, and where I kind of unravel the correspondences of the sun sign in the human body as well as in the human life cycle. And I also record a short guided meditation for this season. So with Scorpio season, we're looking at the reproductive system and the lower intestines in the human body as correspondences. And we're also looking at the kind of late 40s, early 50s in the human life cycle. And it's an interesting way to kind of take a look at the sign. I've really enjoyed writing them. So please consider subscribing for free at astrosomatics.substack.com to get these bonus articles in your inbox. And you can also just go straight to Substack and look up Astrosomatics to read those as well. But next week is the first full week of Scorpio season. as well as the celebration in the Wheel of the Year of the cross-quarter day, Samhain, aka Halloween. And it's also a Scorpio new moon, so you won't have any shortage of Scorpio excitement in the upcoming episodes either. And for now, let's jump into the human design gates of the week, which are gate 50 for the first half of the week, aka the Cauldron of Values, and gate 28, the Game Player. So, like I mentioned, my natal Pluto is in gate 50. So it's currently where the sun is, and it's in the final degrees of Libra. And Pluto, being the modern day ruler of Scorpio, and also having the sun currently squaring Pluto, it feels like a prime season for really feeling into the Lord of the Underworld vibes deep into my core and bringing them to you. So with Pluto just having gone direct in Capricorn and on the brink of entering Aquarius for the next 20 years, as well as being a ruler of the Scorpio season, the Lord Hades will be on the tip of a lot of astrologers' tongues over the next few days and weeks and months, so pay attention to that. We're just in Plutonian times, I'd say. Nairi of Soft Moon Rising, and an astrologer that I follow, recently wrote a really wonderful take on Pluto in her essay, Pluto is Eros, a lyric essay on merging with creativity to invoke erotic self-transgression through the natal chart. Epic title there. And so I'm going to read a short quote from that because it really resonated with me as far as another take on Pluto. It says, Pluto is the primal force in your natal chart who collapses boundaries between your conditioned ego and your disowned desires, traits, and values, hidden in the shadows, where they're only allowed to communicate with you through anxiety, envy, and disgust. Pluto transforms your hidden desires into catalysts for creation and destruction alike, because the impulse is toward full expression of your dormant erotic potential through whatever routes are available. You can choose to meet this force in its destructive pull or through erotic creativity. Eros is commonly known as creative desire, while Pluto's known as destructive darkness. The truth is, these two archetypes are one and the same. As Jung and Hillman remind us, the creating gods are the destroying gods. And I just love that. Pluto as Eros. And the essay goes into kind of how we oftentimes associate Venus with Eros, with creative desire and love. But this is just a take on how Pluto's impulse towards full expression of dormant erotic potential. Like, I love that. And that seems just so spot on for how I've been feeling it in my body lately. It's like this absolute need to express, and that can come about as envy or disgust or anxiety or rage, for sure. Like, it's like, it's not fair. I haven't been able to say this. I'm not comfortable enough to like admit what I want deep down. And so it can come across in these really, these intense emotions. But I love the idea that it can also come through as creative desire and being erotic creativity. Hell yeah. So yeah, that to me is what Scorpio season is all about. It's recognizing that there's creative potential in destruction and destructive potential in creation. The nights are getting longer and the plants are devoting their energy to the roots underground, and we humans are forced to reckon with the darkness. And if we're lucky, some strobe light thunderstorms that are still happening outside my window. It's absolutely madness. A lot of people on the internet are like blaming HARP or, man-made weaponized weather. I went on a Santa Fe forum on Facebook and discovered that the amount of people that believe that is what's happening is kind of wild to see, because it just feels it's so unheard of for this to be happening, and I've never seen lightning like this before. So it is, we're reckoning with the darkness and with the roots. And with our dream life, right? Like what is in those deep dreams. So whether we reckon with darkness in fear or with curiosity for the fertile world that lies beneath is up to us. And hopefully this journey through the I Ching's ancient wisdom and the zodiac and all of these cycles of time will give us some clues on how to align with the depths that we are entering in weeks to come. Libra season brought us from the personal realm of the zodiac, the light half of the wheel of the year, to the transpersonal realm of the zodiac, which is the dark half of the year. And Scorpio is now deepening us into that transpersonal realm. And there's so much grief and rage and pain affecting so many of us on the collective level right now. Just wow. It can feel like a really hard time to let some of the daylight and the flower blossoms wither into the depths. And it can feel really kind of scary to see the light go away in our bones, in our genetics. It feels scary, and especially when there's just so much not ceasing. The fires and the floods are not ceasing at this moment. But if we look at Pluto and the underworld and death, and also Scorpio as entities of creative desire rather than the voids of destruction, then I think it's a really good spin to try to center on, at least for me. Creativity and imagination are our saviors, truly. So Gate 50, starting out this week. It's been through the weekend. This will tap into energies that we've been feeling through the weekend. Kamala Harris's birthday was yesterday, so she was born in Gate 50 when the sun was in Gate 50, so this might give some insights into that presidential candidate as well. It's been interesting to look through that lens. But it is known as the Cauldron or cosmic order in the I Ching. And in the Gene Keys, has the shadow of corruption and the gift of equilibrium and the city of harmony. I've also heard Gate 50 described by various human design guides as the maestro. It's a musical gate about harmony and equilibrium and kind of conducting and being the maestro of lots of different energies. And I've also heard it described as the tuning fork by Christy Inge, who's another human design guide that I really like and love her unique description. So tuning fork, maestro, harmony, cosmic order, cauldron. These are some words on the tip of my tongue. And basically the way I see it is, I've meditated on this a bit because it has contains my Pluto, my natal Pluto. So I'm just like, I've been feeling riled up and feeling like something's going on. And so looking to this has given me some information. And it feels like what the 50th gift brings is, or what the 50th gate of values is seeking, is to look at the diversity of values within a community and within a group and be able to kind of harmonize them so that everybody's individual needs are getting met and the larger group's needs are being met as well. And I think that is really what jumps out to me the most when I think about all of these words. It's kind of like you take a cauldron and you put a lot of different disparate ingredients in there that all have their unique medicine and their unique potency, and you let it kind of simmer and bubble and boil. And, end of Libra, beginning of Scorpio season is all about relationship and merging in relationship, intimacy, like going to the deeper levels of relationship. Libra's kind of on the surface a little bit, kind of weighing the pros and cons and still being separate from the other, whereas Scorpio is kind of like, okay, now we're going underground. Now we are seeing those parts of us where we are already interconnected through our roots. And so, the cauldron is a beautiful image for that, of just like people with gate 50 having a really distinct skill to see, to notice the diversity of values and to pay attention to them. And kind of like a maestro or a tuning fork, it's like they're able to synthesize and bring to an equilibrium a lot of disparate sounds. For example, a whole orchestra, you have musical instruments playing completely different sounds, and the maestro will be able to create an equilibrium and create distinct harmony out of all of these disparate sounds so that they are ringing their true potential and playing to their best ability. And the whole picture also has a deep resonance and beauty to it. Same thing with a tuning fork. It's like, I don't know if you've seen those videos, but where you ring a certain tuning fork and bring it around other tuning forks, and they all start to vibrate to the same tone. And so it's not about creating sameness. It's not like everyone's the same, egalitarianism, but it's more equilibrium through recognizing differences and recognizing distinct values, but knowing that we can have both our individual values and have them contribute to the larger whole. So, the shadow level of this corruption is basically, in the gene keys, they talk about it being an erroneous translation of natural law. And so kind of like corrupt data, for example, if you have a corrupted hard drive, it's a flawed transcription. It's something that has been, kind of tried to be copied or put into a certain hierarchy if we're looking at society, and then recognizing that you can't artificially create equilibrium or harmony or structure by putting things into a certain order. It's a lot more likely to be corrupted if that's the case. But it talks a lot about the self-organizing principles of life and how people who have the 50th key, the 50th gate active and are in that kind of shadow frequency, they can become victims of hierarchy through fear and repression, kind of being unwilling or unable to escape the system and living with compromised dreams. And on the other side of that, in the shadow level, there's people with this gate who are kind of irresponsibly taking advantage of a hierarchy and trying to create equilibrium through, creating kind of their own systems, like playing the system a little bit. The criminals and rebels and hyper-competitive business people and corrupt officials at all levels of society kind of can fit into this. But then when we get to the nature of the gift level of this, is it's equilibrium, where intelligence is a self-organizing principle, and within all of us, there's a code for creating harmony and peace, and this gift can help kind of show the blueprint towards that. I was reading a book on evolutionary herbalism because I'm taking an evolutionary herbalism class, which is really awesome, through the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. And they talk a lot about self-organizing principles within nature in that book. So it was interesting that it came up in that way about plant life. And it's something that I'm just putting a pin in to talk about at greater length in the future. But it's kind of this 50th gate that we're in right now is like, the desire is for harmony, social harmony, right? And belonging and bringing, last week we talked a lot about ancestry. So it's bringing the past, bringing our roots to the future is something that we're still doing during this season and this time of year, is kind of creating that continuum between the past and the future. But with the desire to make that flow smoothly, we could either say, okay, we need to put everything in its own column, in its own row, in its own lane, and have certain levels and castes and classes and that kind of thing. And that's a way that a lot of humans think that, it's the only way to like create so-called harmony, but we see how easily that can be corrupted. And so there's really a gift in this, which is intimacy, which is a Scorpio theme just all the way through, but intimacy in the sense of honesty and communication, being very clear about your desires, your wants, your needs, so that that can be known, that your values can be known, and therefore put into the right place within the larger group so that it rings out like a beautiful orchestra, rather than having to be kind of put into an arbitrary category that isn't actually going to allow it as an individual to fulfill its potential, right? So yeah, it's known as the gate of values in human design. And that's because it's about the way that values are passed on through the generations. And it kind of talks about repressed secrets and repressed emotions between parents, often emerging through the life of the child, particularly in the first 7 years. And the Gene Keys talks about parents with children under 7 years of age. So it was speaking to me right here. But it says parents with children under 7 years of age have an opportunity to bring equilibrium into the family. And this can also apply to larger organizations like businesses. The cauldron of the 50th gift is the social values that are shared with the whole community. So the role of the 50th gift is to balance the ingredients in the pot. These people can bring harmony to a group without even thinking about it. It says, in the model of heterarchy, the individual and the group's needs must both be met. If an individual is not in balance, then the whole group cannot be either. Each individual must be trusted with the freedom to find balance within themselves so that they can contribute to the whole group. True equilibrium and teamwork is always a self-organizing phenomenon that never can be successfully implemented through external control. So, yeah, that just let that one soak in for a little bit. It's really, it's something that actually I went to that powwow on Indigenous Peoples Day last week in Santa Fe, and one of the opening speakers was speaking to that, kind of like you have to take care of yourself first and make sure that you are good so that you can then connect and contribute to the larger community. And that was a main kind of keynote piece of advice from that event that was just really spoke to me, that yeah, we have to kind of continuously balance polarities, and that's those Libra scales here. So this is the final degree of Libra, and it's really all about like this deep desire for harmony, deep desire for equilibrium. Those are very Libran things. But as we continue to balance them, maybe in the beginning of Libra season, have a big weight on one side, and then we put something else onto the other side of the scale and it throws it way off balance. But as you get more refined and nuanced through Libra season and towards Scorpio season, you're seeing that constant balancing act on those scales eventually get smaller and smaller. As you weigh something out, it gets less and less disparate, I guess. So yeah, the Libra Scorpio cusp is a great visual here. So as this is the last gate of Libra season, the sway between the two scales just gets slower and more minuscule. And then Scorpio represents intimacy and merging and the deep harmony of integration and being intimate with something where you're not looking for, okay, well, how are we different? What's different? It's more just saying, okay, what are we setting forth to grow roots down into together? So in Libra season, the leaves fall to the soil but have not yet broken down into bits to be integrated into the soil. I think about Libra season in the ecology of where these archetypes came from as a season where there was a lot of leaves and plant matter kind of sitting atop the soil. But then within Scorpio season, they break down with all of this, with the rain and with the weather changes, the breakdown of those leaves and plants happens, and the composting begins. And there's kind of an assimilation of the living with the dead and an assimilation of the plant life with the soil. And that really begins in earnest in Scorpio season. In the I Ching, the cauldron is represented by fire over wind, which is kind of the wind below feeding the fire above to stoke the fire and boil the pot and create a transformative goodness, kind of again merging all of the disparate items that are in the cauldron into a juicy, bubbly brew. So the cauldron is the melting pot, the place where imbalances are destroyed and dissimilarities are merged together. And on the cusp of Libra and Scorpio right now, we're adding ingredients to the pot and beginning to stir them together and breaking them down. And then in Scorpio season, we begin to add the heat to transform the ingredients into something new, which kind of creates a transmutative quantum leap. In ancient China, they used a great rotund cauldron for cooking the sacrifice, which was called a ting. And we have a phrase, into the melting pot, meaning putting our previous ideas into complete reconsideration. And this is the symbolism of the ting, the cauldron in ancient China, which was the sacrificial vessel. It's something that's known to kind of bring good fortune, because by putting previously considered ideas into a complete, like melting them down into a complete reconsideration, we are able to make ourselves anew and find success, because change is brought about when existing structure is sacrificed. So this is a time of year that's like, can't just keep going the way we've been going. Something needs to be melted down. So this week, I invite you to consider the fact that the cosmic order is not hierarchy, it is harmony, and it's up to each of us as individuals to do our part to reach our own internal balance, tapping into the larger cosmic order. At this point, we can connect to others as if we're all instruments in a harmonic symphony. This week, persist in gathering the ingredients for your life's cauldron. When there's breakdown and decay, know that it is essential for transformational alchemy to occur. And when we align the right values in our life, we don't need to superimpose hierarchical order for success. We can simply stir them into the pot and let the magic happen. So that is the gate of the cauldron. I love it. I think it's so cool. All these metaphors and all these ideas of like what a cauldron is. I just wanted to like stand by the display at Party City and like talk to the kids coming through who are buying cauldrons for their stoops and their Halloween decorations, and like talk about like the alchemical mystery and magic of the cauldron in ancient times. But I didn't do that, so I'm doing it here. Thank you for listening. Gate 28, moving on. So for the second half of the week, late Wednesday through Sunday, we move into the gate of the game player. And in the I Ching, this is known as lake over wind, which is described as excess or test of fate. And it is about embracing the darkness. I think you're probably sensing a theme here. And when I first heard the title of this gate a while back, I remember thinking immediately, don't hate the player, hate the game. Because the gate of the game player, it's like, is it the player or is it the game itself? And, don't hate the player, hate the game can be flipped to don't love the player, love the game. This gate is about choosing to play the game, to trust in life, to live alongside any fears that come up, to remain committed and embrace both the pleasure and the pain, allowing the merging of light and dark to happen. We, just went through the cauldron where we put all of our final, disparate parts into that and boiled them down into a soup. And now it's simmering. And so, we could choose to kick it off the flames and say, oh, I don't want to, that's too deep, that's too much, it's too scary. Or we could continue to just keep adding more ingredients all the time and being focused on just adding and adding and adding. Or, as this gate would describe, the gate of the game player, we could love the game and commit to the game and tend to the soup and embrace the totality of it, welcoming the game of life with all it brings, no matter how dramatic it might get. And so the Gene Keys has the shadow here of purposelessness and the gift of totality and the city of immortality. And so purposelessness is kind of like deciding to disengage from the depths as they come to us. So in the Wheel of the Year, we inevitably, there has to be a part where we are entering the coldness, entering the darkness, and just the real fears that can come up from that time, right? After beautiful, beautiful spring and summer and lightness and kind of a golden fall. It's like, this is the first time we're touching, darkness in lots of forms, in archetypical and symbolic forms, as well as literally. And so, as the plant life is composting and returning to the soil and recognizing that it's impossible to stay green and blooming and flowering forever, we are invited within this to embrace the totality of the experience of both light and dark, of all of it, or else we can start to feel a kind of lack of purpose, because we'll feel kind of paralysis in choosing to live a half-life that doesn't include some of the darker elements of life, or the more uncomfortable or the unfamiliar things. And so, the 28th gate is really just encouraging us to play the game of life. As we continue to face our fear of death, there's a quote that I've heard that is basically like, the amount of fullness of life is directly proportionate to how much we're able to face the fears that threaten our dreams. And, many great myths speak of traveling to the underworld to face something down below so that you can again come back and reach true light. And only by doing so are we able to actually see the truth. So if we program ourselves to avoid fears by subscribing to a single truth or dogma, or kind of putting blinders on, we'll never reach the underworld and never touch that void, and thus never attain our purpose. So that's why when you're living in that shadow level of purposelessness, it's because you haven't chosen to face death, face the darkness. And, since our survival is not as at risk in many places in the modern world as it used to be, kind of just across the board, our constant fear of death is often replaced by the fear of not finding our true purpose and not aligning with our dreams and passing along that purpose through time. So that's something that definitely resonates, is kind of what is this fear that is haunting a lot of us all the time, is kind of like, am I going to create what I'm here to do and contribute in the way that I'm meant to contribute? So it's about going full bore into choosing to live a full life and take the risks so that you are not stuck in that kind of paralysis. I'm going to go heavy with the metaphor of the cauldron, but just, take a sip of the soup. We don't know what it's going to taste like. My daughter's reading this really funny little Halloween book called The Picky Little Witch right now, and it's about this little witch that her mom's making this, like, potion in the cauldron that's like newt's eye and like knee of gnat and, skin of rat and all of the things that witches put in their cauldron. And the Picky little witch does not like this. She wants to go trick-or-treating and eat candy, but her mom thinks that candy's gross because she's a witch and not a human, and she doesn't understand why her daughter likes it. And at the end of the day, the daughter drinks this soup and it's this green bubbling brew, and she loves it. And the mom tries a bite of candy and also decides it's not so bad. So it's pretty cute little tale. Picky little witch, and it's really about, like it spoke to me as I was reading it tonight during bedtime because it was about this gate, about the cauldron, and about the game player, both about, let's just put it all in. This is the all in time of the world of life. And so, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, representing action, and also by Pluto, representing the underworld. So by taking a sip of that soup and actively engaging with death and with the soil and with the unknown depths that lie beneath the surface, we can ultimately find our purpose in that. We can be alchemists even. And in the Gene Keys, the city is immortality. So it's like through this, we can even achieve immortality by actively engaging with the depths, right? In my mind, immortality can be realized as we transmute the definition of what life means to include the dark and the past and the space beyond, instead of saying that life only includes the light and the future and the tangible. So immortality means continuity through time, like recognizing that life and death are not opposites, but are both contained within the larger cycle of life. So that's the totality piece there, that the game player is concerned with in the later half of this week and beginning of next week. It's embracing the allness, all there is. And I get a little shimmer of excitement when I feel the, this season. It just feels like, ooh, like there's a shiver down the spine of like that we're really getting into it here. I went to a play last week at a theater in downtown Santa Fe called Sugar Skulls. It's a touring play about Dia de los Muertos, Dia de Muertos, and it was really beautiful because it's about how Dia de Muertos is not a scary holiday, and it was a kids' play, a lot of children in the audience, and it was about this little girl who's from Brooklyn, and she's like, all my friends celebrate Halloween, why do we have to make an ofrenda and like celebrate this weird holiday where we, give gifts and decorate the altar for our ancestors? And so it was very like this modern little girl whose mother was just super frustrated with her about that. And so she meets the sugar skull from the ofrenda, and he takes her on this tour through the underworld to meet all of these different characters. And La Bruja is like the sad one, and then there's the beautiful, singing skeleton. They all have their place. They all have something that they're wanting to talk about and to share about the meaning of connecting to our ancestry and to our past and showing reverence for it and paying attention to where it is that we come from. And a big message from that play was the fact that death is not scary, and death is not something that we need to fear. It's not horrific. It's just a part of life, and a part that if we have a celebration and a time in the year to honor it when the veil is thin, to honor those who have come before us and our future ancestors as well, then we are doing our part to participate in the game of life and the entire totality of that. So that's about all I have to say about it. There's a lot of fear in the world right now. There's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of concern for nothing being right, and not understanding how we can fit in to the larger picture. I think a lot of people are like, how can I keep doing my silly little exercises and my silly little job or my silly little creative projects when there's so much that's happening and so much that is in the process of destruction, and it's just too much, right? But I think that, as I was saying, in the beginning of this episode, it's about recognizing that destruction and creation are similar types of forces, and it really just depends on how we look at it. And that, by adding to our cauldron, by stirring it, by staying engaged and facing the darkness, the purpose of our ancestors, the purpose of our future stays alive. And it's really not about how that stew will turn out, but it's about the action of being committed to the fullness in the moment of keeping it alive. And that's what we are tasked to do during this time of year, is zoom out beyond ourselves a little bit as things start to merge and connect, and think about the others in our life, and think about the ones who have come before. So I know it's been an intense few weeks of looking into the well and, the ancestors and facing the fear beast. And I hope that these episodes provide a little bit of vocabulary and a little bit of insight for feelings of discomfort that might be coming up around this time of year. And I appreciate being able to talk to you all in this way, because it helps me as well to process the fact that this is it's one stage, it's one phase of this ongoing cycle, and we will keep moving through it. And there's such beauty in each chapter of the Wheel of the Year and the cycles of our lives. So we're rounding up on almost an hour here, so I will say goodbye and have a really beautiful week. Next week we'll be back here talking about Samhain and more Scorpio goodness and that Scorpio new moon. So thank you, as always, for sharing this podcast and subscribing at astrosomatics.substack.com or wherever you listen to podcasts, and sharing with me your thoughts. And I will see you very soon. Have a beautiful, beautiful, bubbly cauldron week ahead. Bye.